We're back.
We're
Larry,
back.
we're back. And guess what? Guess who else is back?
We've got a guest.
It's Michael. It's
How you
Michael here
doing?
to challenge all our Azure-ness.
Well, fortunately that's easy.
Yeah, so it's
Oh,
like
oh.
we feel like we were challenged. So here, just so you know, Michael, it wasn't just posted yet, but it will be posted soon. We sort of like had an interruption where we started looking at, well, what does Azure actually cost to use, and can we get it for free or for cheap and everything else? And we did a
Right.
review, and maybe this we might talk about this a little bit. We did a review of how do you get free stuff like before. Well, you didn't. It was never free. You always had to pay somewhere. And so we
Right.
had this thing called MSDN. You might remember the MSDN package. And you
I
used to pay.
do. I remember getting all the DVDs, and I had
Yeah, the
a
Yeah.
exactly.
binder with like 36 DVDs in it, and
Oh
with
man,
codes for everything. Kicking it old
those were the
school
days.
here.
Michael's dating himself big time. So yes, we have those. I bet Larry has like in half his basement. He's got all
I've
of
got
those big books.
I've got downstairs. I've got one of. I kept one.
You
Okay,
kept
just
one,
for I kept one just for fun. But
one
yeah,
for
but
fun.
the good part, or the part that I miss not having an MSDN right now, is the Azure credits, right? Because
Yes.
the
So it's
latter
the
ones you get
credits.
Azure credits.
Yeah, it was true. So we started deep diving. It's like, well, what does it actually cost to get those credits? And we were ourselves a little sticker shocked as we went through the what is not MSDN now, it's Visual Studio. So in Visual Studio, we open up and you get a subscription. Here's what you get for free, zilch, or unless you get a trial. And here's what you had to pay. And there was apparently two levels of this. There was an enterprise Visual Studio that gave no Azure credits, which
Right.
that we did not expect that,
Monthly. Yeah.
right? And then of course the monthly was like $500 or something, and I was already like sticker shock when it was 3,000 a year. But here's $500, 499 or something, you know, for each of it. However, though, and this was the reason why it came up is because somebody somewhere said, "Hey, we have this old BizTalk thing that we need to migrate out. We can't get it running on a VM of any kind. And firstly, we can't get the software. Whatever we have seems to not work with anything. Well, of course, Microsoft's not supporting it. You got something that God knows where you got it. You're lucky that Microsoft even let you install it at all, or whatever OS allowed this, right? And
Yep.
then we looked it up, and sure enough, there in Visual Studio, what used to be MSDN is BizTalk sitting, waiting. It's ancient, it's old, but it's ready to install. So this
Right.
came up with this is like, well, what about on AWS? Because in AWS, one of the things that sort of stopped us early on was the fact that when we started up a VM in Azure, it came with the Windows license. We didn't have to fight for it. It was like it was
Mhm.
there. And then in the AWS one, we remembered that we had to give it a license key. Otherwise, it was a little free license. But if you didn't put in the key, it's just as good as not having it. That was a
Right.
long time ago. So tell us, Mr. Michael, do the licenses come if I spun up a Windows VM on AWS? Do we get a license or do we got to pay for that?
So you normally have to pay for it. They have a license included version of it because I have no idea how Azure has not got pulled in front of the EU and the US antitrust with the way that they do that, because it is blatantly anti-competitive. You can take your licenses to Azure, but they specifically say you can't take your licenses to AWS, you can't take it to GCP, you can't take it to Alibaba, you can't take it to OCI, you can't take it to Tencent, blah blah blah, right? And the cost is out to lunch if you do a comparison for that. Now, the nice thing with AWS is extremely generous with service credits.
Aha.
So they have a customer council, which I'm in, and I get
Ooh,
every
we have
month.
friends in high places, Larry.
We do. It's so basically you just take surveys, and every time you take a survey, they either give you a $25 or $100 service credit, and that stuff adds up surprisingly fast. I have right now. I do a lot of playing around with things. I've got a number of just myself. I've got about 15 different accounts that I use for different things, just to keep them segregated. Because it doesn't cost you anything to start up another account, and if you put them in an organization, the billing rolls up to your management account. So it's really easy to manage that. It's really easy to see what you're doing. But I actually, my credits tend to expire before I use them. I have unfortunately so many of them. I give them to people, nowadays.
A nice problem to have, sir.
The other thing that's actually really nice for Capgemini, we just had our AWS Global Agentic Hackathon, where we had 310 groups of people, about 1,500 people total, that were participating in it.
Wow.
If you are a partner like us, and for every person you have in your organization that gets one of the lower level certifications, the foundational or the associate's level, they give you a $300 service credit that's good for a year. If it's the professional or the specialty, then they give you a $500 credit. So I had, for the month that we
Larry's
were
already counting. He's like,
and
holy
actually,
smokes. I'm going to lose Larry here in 2 seconds here. Larry, I used to know you.
Yeah,
oh, wow. Holy smokes. That's great.
Yeah. So one of the things that we'll see on the video that you're not on the share right now is I'm showing actually a shot of the $19,000 that we spent on those 310 teams. And every penny of that was paid for with AWS service credits that we got for that. So, it's actually, it's really interesting. And one of the things that you can do is, as you're going along, it's very easy to see how much money am I spending, how much of that is covered by service credits, and is there anything that I'm not covered. So one of the things that anything that is a third-party product, so if you're getting an LLM that's not an Amazon LLM, if you're not getting Nova, if you're getting if you're from Anthropic or from Llama, then there's a small cost associated with that. But to give you an idea for these people, our total bill for non-Amazon LLMs was like $50. So, and that was with 310 teams, hacking away and not turning stuff off, and not being very efficient with it. So it's actually pretty reasonable the way AWS Marketplace works. And there actually are, if you're a startup and you get VC credits, VC companies have these other things called Activate credits. They cover everything. They cover almost everything in AWS Marketplace. So there's actually even a level above the credits that we get that really make it cheap to do stuff.
Nice.
And you can get like the Activate credits. It's pretty easy to get $100,000 or $200,000 worth of service credits for that. And again, that covers if you're using New Relic or you're using some of the other really essential services that you normally have to pay extra for that are beyond what AWS offers. So short answer is you get a lot of credits for things. If you guys want to play, let me know. I have some credits for you if you want to come over to the dark side and do some AWS work.
The title of this show is going to be like Michael brings his credits.
Hey, it's not my personality that makes me popular, so something's got
as they say, sometimes when you walk like money, it just brings the crowd.
That's right.
You were saying, Larry?
Make it rain. No, I'm just, it's the Amazon really, I think, does a good job, and we mentioned this, I think, before. They do a good job of really segmenting their services down to a small piece that they can charge less for. And we were talking about the Windows licenses. That's less and less required now. I mean, why do you need a Windows license anymore? Because you're going to be running your you're going to be running in Docker or in Linux, and you're not really going to be running any Windows servers up there unless you're running, as you say, BizTalk or some ancient software that's not
some ancient software.
Sort of
it's the only time it comes into play. You're right. So like it's like even running the VMs and everything else. What are the point of running those? Say RPA is one of the reasons to do it, though. That's what we're seeing a lot of those particular use cases, and that's for everywhere. We need to RPA the heck out of stuff because there's no cloud, there's no cloud connector or some sort of API that's available. There's still the manual someone thing has to click on something. So that's how they
Right.
get around it. And of course, the choice of the different providers of these services is on where to host it. AWS is definitely
Mhm.
one of the major places that has happened. A lot of RPA happens through there. And of course, the Azure, when with the Power Automate desktop and everything else, that's the same thing. They have, and in fact, they provide it with like, here's a flat price, and we will scale, but you pay us 250, and basically, you just don't ask questions. We'll do it 250, right? How will it work? It doesn't matter. 250, right? And done, right? The idea, though, of course, is that behind the scenes, someone has got the brains to know how to set that up to be able to do all the scaling. And it turns out all that technology is the same technology we use on both sides of the fences for how to make things scale up and scale down. I was reminded today because this came up actually. I was talking to we have another associate by the name of Matt Braveheart, and he was brought into an AWS project, but because of his cloud skills, not because he did AWS and he has to apply the patterns into there. That there are
Right.
patterns, and the patterns cross the streams. So a
Yes.
pattern, and I think the most famous patterns that I reminded them that people have maybe forgotten is the 12 factor, or
Hmm.
as like Larry's favorite. He calls them
Yep.
Define 9.
That
Larry has it
12
simple.
factor apps. I
Larry
remember
says,
that.
"I'm not spending for the other four, or
Other three, yeah.
for
Yeah.
the
Well,
other
and
three."
some of the 12 factors are, I mean, some of the 12 factors were great when they came out, but we've kind of moved beyond them. And so, yeah,
Hmm.
I redid and have some extras in there because, observability and things like that are great, but we need to move beyond them. But anyway, as you were
Hmm.
saying, Ralph, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So as I was saying, it's like it's all about the patterns and applying them. And if you apply them wrong, it doesn't matter which service you use. You've killed yourself into the one area. They were saying that, and this one actually came up, and maybe you might know about this, Michael. If you're doing, say, the so-called container services, we
Yes.
have Kubernetes.
Hmm.
Azure has a Kubernetes, and I believe there's a Kubernetes also on AWS.
Oh, of course.
All right,
Managed,
and
yeah.
we were talking about it's essentially it's containers, right? It's
Yep.
what used to be Docker and all the rest, making that
Hmm.
happen. And their complaint at the time was updating this. So you had to update. There's going to be a version of the service changing somewhere, and you had to
Yes.
update it. And
Hmm.
everyone was mad that with the at least Kubernetes service as it was called is hard to do. Is it truly
Yes.
hard to do, or is it because they architected themselves into a hole?
It's kind of a pain. And so I do quite a bit with modernization, and containerization is a big thing. So every 4 months, you get a major release
Yes.
within Kubernetes, and you get kind of a dot release. You have dot one, dot two, dot three, dot four, and a full version every year, and they support them for about 2 years. AWS supports them a little bit longer. So on AWS, you've got EKS, which is their version of straight up compliant Kubernetes. Gives you everything, any type of sidecar, any type of plugin. You use Carpenter. Carpenter is amazing. You can use those. Now they also have a container service called ECS, and what this does is this is stripped down. So if you have EKS, you don't have to maintain the control plane. You don't have to update that. They do that all for you.
Right.
You do have to maintain what gets built into the layers in your containers. So, but they also support things where the actual release version gets supported for 2 years, 2.5 years. They'll extend the support to 4 years. So you can do that. But my big thing is um, update twice yearly and update to whatever is the most recent version that's come out that's been seasoned for about 4 weeks or 5 weeks. So you always stay current because it makes your life so much easier. So many of our customers have things where they're on .NET Framework 4, they're on .NET Framework 3.5, and so many of the things, the pain that they feel is it's a pain to do that. It's very difficult to upgrade. from older versions. Now, this actually segues really nicely into a package that AWS has released recently in QDeveloper, and then they also broke out this other piece called AWS Transform. So in QDeveloper, I had this demo that I did for our internal group, where I took an Oracle Java 8 Spring Boot 2 app, updated it to OpenJDK 21. Because, for example, Oracle, if Capgemini paid rack rates for Oracle licensing, we'd be spending $5.25 million a year for Oracle Java licensing. That's just Java licensing.
That's just the Java licenses.
It's
Yeah.
just for Java licensing. Now, if you're running Java on AWS, you don't have to pay for support. It's included in your AWS support if you're using AWS Corrado, which is a completely plug and play compatible version to OpenJDK. You can switch out the JVMs. You don't even have to recompile, and it is a completely compatible version. But anyway, with Oracle Java 8 to OpenJDK 21, Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3. You ever played with Spring Boot? You know how much of a pain that is. Updated all the dependencies, remediated all the deprecated calls, did things like when Java X switched to Jakarta, did all of those. Inspected the code diffs, created the documentation for all the changes that you would want to send through change control and that you would have to get approvals for. Did a complete security review that found 16 critical, like 10 high, a bunch of mediums, and a bunch of low issues. And then during this, the single click to fix one each of the critical, high, medium, and low issues. Created a test suite of 75 positive, negative test cases for the 10 API endpoints in this. Checked everything into Git, build it through the CI/CD process, checked the new jar into the artifact repository, and then used Postman to run the deploy checks. I did this live in 60 minutes.
60. Wait. Not
60 minutes.
Yeah, not 600, right?
No, 60 minutes. And I've got the recording if you guys want to look at it.
That actually is pretty cool. So, Larry, have you been working? You've worked with Kubernetes stuff recently, or any container stuff recently? I think you were doing something
I'm
not
using
too long
containers.
ago.
I'm using containers right now at work, but it's what's interesting, and we talk about the cloud and platform as a service versus infrastructure as a service, and really EKS and what was the other one? ETS,
ECS, and EKS.
ECS and EKS. I mean, are those platform as a service, or is it?
Yeah.
Where do those fit? They both are, but one of them's higher than the other. Where do we?
No, they're actually parallels, because what ECS is it's that 20% of Kubernetes that 80% of people use, right? So the nice thing about this is you with the control plane, there's still a little bit of stuff that you have to do. You actually have to go into the control plane. You have to occasionally tell you want to update it. ECS is all the stuff in Kubernetes that most people use. Now, the neat things about that is the containers, if you build them right, worst thing, you just rebuild them and put some different control plane software in it, is they're completely compatible. You can move the container from ECS to EKS. Say you're doing something and you need a specific sidecar to do authentication that just isn't available because ECS isn't Kubernetes. You just move it over. Now, most companies, for Vanguard Group, for example, we helped them and did their migration from their data centers to AWS. They run most everything on ECS with Fargate, which is serverless containers. So what this means is that you don't run the containers in a VM. You just run the containers, just like you would an Azure function. And it just runs it. So you don't have that kind of, I call it, this kind of psychotic Tetris game where you're trying to fit your containers into the VMs that you have. Well, and you always have some utilization that you don't need. You know how it goes for most things. Most people, if they have a VM, they target 50% utilization, because you can't get above 80% utilization, because then you get all sorts of cascading failures and stuff just goes all higgly piggly, right? You can't get 100% utilization on that. And they target 50% because if you have some other VM fails, you need some place for the containers to spin up. You need the pods to spin up somewhere else. So at best, you're getting 50%, but you're not even getting 50% because the operating system for that VM takes up 15, 20%. So out of those 16 cores that you have in that machine, you're getting to use like 6, right? At best. Now, with Fargate, and they have something that's kind of equivalent to it on Azure, but I just don't remember the name of it. Is you just run the container. So if you know whatever you put to that, that's all you're using, and it's remarkably efficient. So compared to workloads that are running on a VM-based container system versus the you're looking at a 30 to 50% savings, and that's numbers that Vanguard puts out and talks about in presentations that they do. So it's a huge thing. It's just yeah, it's extremely efficient, extremely cost effective, lowers your TCO. Now, it doesn't fit every workload. There are some things where if you're going to be turning containers on and off frequently and doing things like that, Kubernetes actually responds a little bit better. You get a little bit better efficiency out of it. And in some case, you'd pay for the performance versus over that little additional cost savings or even 20% cost savings. Having the performance is much better. But the things that Azure and AWS and GCP are doing with that are really amazing. The things that the type of efficiencies that you get out of it, and everything else that you're using with it.
Wow, optimized to death. And
Yeah.
Larry, you remember any
So
recent? Have you had to play on your side to make things to tweak the performance at all, or have you been
no,
lucky
no,
that it all works?
we're still you know, we're still planting the green in the field, right? I mean,
Oh,
we're not. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we're actually pre-award, so we're, you know, we're building software to fulfill a contract that hasn't been, you know, hasn't gone through the process yet. So we're way early.
oh, so
So
okay, so you
performance
have
is
yet to
not.
see whether or not it's going to, but has it been pretty much predestined on where it's going to go? Is that your reason to be there to make sure that it
Yeah,
doesn't go the wrong way?
it's always in Kubernetes, and you know, we're we had some trouble getting a dev environment up because it had to be on-prem and in the cloud. I mean, there were some issues that we as the developers didn't have to deal with, and
Hmm.
so we didn't have any input into. But yeah, it's interesting to me though that we have so many different layers or so many different levels within what we used to call infrastructure as a service, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
have different management levels, and so I'm wondering if we need to to differentiate between those now. I mean, because they're, you know, serverless is great, right? Lambdas and Azure functions,
Right.
and that's like even beyond sort of platform as a service. That's a managed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Functions as a service. They
yeah,
even call it
functions as
that.
a service. Yeah.
FAS. Yeah.
So it's
And
we yeah that's a model that, you know, I haven't seen a good picture of yet. Let me say it that way. I would
mhm.
love to see a picture that shows, you know, really how those break out and where they are as far as management levels go. Because of course, the more management that you do, the more control you have, but also, you know, that can
But
be
then
bad.
that's also a lot of the work that you
More
have to do.
responsibility that
Let's
you
say
have to have.
more things,
Yeah.
more responsibility. The more that goes wrong that tag to you, as opposed to those guys
Yeah.
over there, they're doing it. Oh, they messed up, and basically the case of like it's like printing your own money for your own little nation, as opposed to let's just use the money that everyone else has, and
Yeah.
maybe if of course if that goes kaput, then everybody goes kaput.
Well, what AWS and Azure do that are really good is they give you the levers and the knobs that you need. So when you look at Lambda or Azure Functions, you can set the amount of memory and the amount of CPU that you need, which is really all you need to. They're the only levers you need. That's the only level of control that you need. After that, everything else is just I want to adjust the knobs. I want to play with it. it doesn't really give you additional functionality. And that's the big difference between EKS and ECS. Or you also have AKS, and you've got serverless AKS, which is what I was trying to think of that was equivalent to Fargate, where it's just bare containers. And in some cases, you can adjust everything that you need with Kubernetes, and to a level of you get too many choices sometimes. And if you're looking at the ECS, and you're looking at I think, what do they call it, ACI on Azure, these are things that you know sometimes you don't need to be able to turn those knobs or pull those
Yeah,
levers.
we tell people that sometimes. Like, well, I want to have this control. I said, well, if you wanted that control, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
Right? Basically, I'm going to the grocery store. I want to see the plant coming out of the ground. It's like, oh, you went to the wrong place. The farm is over there. If you really wanted to go there and deal with the, if you wanted to have a discussion with that cow why he's not coming out with what he's got, it's not going to happen at the Kroger's here, and they're going to give you the bottle of milk is not going to talk to you. You got to go
right,
moo over there, so it's
Well, and
someplace.
and the next level beyond that, you get those chef boxes where all of the ingredients are already measured out, and all you have to do is put
Yes.
them in the pots. I mean, that's kind of that
Yes.
next level. So,
And
you know,
that's the next level, though. That even sometimes we're asked to do that. It's like, can we get? And that's what the concept of the agents, right? The agents
right,
are like, we have all these pieces, and all of a sudden now there's a system smart enough to essentially cobble them on demand, right?
right.
So you got stuff going all
Yes.
over, and you cobble them, and you bring them on demand, and you bring it all in there. I think that's what we're sort of getting to next. It's like you were talking about the agentic a hackathon that you guys are doing over here.
Yes.
We're looking at doing the same thing in the community side, where we're getting people to put it together. Oh, so I did that for our group over here. I said, let's do something simple. We want to get everyone with muscle memory, because all of it is muscle memory. If you just do an agent once a month, it's the concept of like, yeah, I bought this car so I can take the little birdie to the vet once a month. It's like, well, you're
Right.
not getting ROI out of it, and you're not getting any practice. And if the rules change, if the road changes, any of that, you're not as good as the person that's exercising and doing the, you know, beating their chest every day, doing their stuff, right? So the idea was like, think of something simple and use a simple tool, and just think it through, and you see it again. Look at it 2 days later. Make it do it again. What did you
Yep.
learn? What came out? Share with everybody else what's going on. Same principles right over here, right? But now, how do we say, things are moving so fast? I was wondering, for Michael, this is my last question for you for today, before you go away, is like on Microsoft, for example, when GPT-5 was announced by OpenAI, like within 2 seconds, every single product of Microsoft somehow has GPT-5 in it. It's like, did you guys even wait at all? It's like
Right.
everything is like so beyond fresh. You just threw it in there, and it all seems to just work. How did that happen? Obviously, we know they've been planning this for a long time. They've set it up. The slides have been built like months ago, whatever. They
Hmm.
were all set to go. So I'm just wondering, on the AWS side, is it the same? Do you guys like have stuff that like so secret, and all of a sudden drop it, or do you make it a point to like tell people, coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and let
Oh
people
yeah. Little bit of both, right? There are some things where some things you're just going to generate buzz. People think that it's vaporware. So there are some things that they do give you heads up on. Some things they don't. So if you're looking at Nova Sonic, which is this very interesting LLM that basically you talk to it, and it responds in near real time. It's not just a chat bot, but what it does is it's actually a real thinking LLM. And you can switch languages on the flies, and it speaks 20 different languages. And you can even tell it to respond in accent. I kind of have a running joke is, I like Scottish accents. So I said, give me like Merida, and have it, talk like her, so, um,
brave Arya. Yeah.
yes. But actually, interesting. Real quick aside. Actually, Disney, the Mikana, whatever her family name was, they actually registered there's a tartan registry in Scotland, and they actually registered the tartan that they developed for that. It's actually a copyrighted registered tartan, and nobody else
I
can use
heard
it.
something about that they actually went
Interesting.
and they said it, and they let them do it too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Actually, Scrooge McDuck's tartan is actually registered as well.
Of course.
Ah, there's a
Mhm.
guest we need to have on our show. Maybe we'll talk about
Yeah,
Ralph's Bitcoin again once I get
yeah.
that thing working.
So,
Ah,
um,
oh,
yeah. So what was the question again? I lost my train of thought there
well,
with
the
the
question was like,
tartans.
them
Ah, yeah.
dropping new
Right.
things like suddenly on you, like on your head, like what?
Yes. So the Bedrock, which is the main engine that they have, one of the things that's really cool about this is there are about 56 foundation models that you can use. All sorts of there's 17 different companies that have them. Llama. You can actually even use the OpenAI OSS, the 20 billion and the 120 billion models as well. The neat thing about this is all of those they abstract away from you the prompt engineering. So you build the prompts that you need. Give it the any type of RAG supplementary data that you have, and with one API, tell it which of the LLMs you want to send it to, and you can do it rapid fire. If you send them, if you have obviously have to be the same type of LLMs. You're not going to send something from that you would send to Claude 4 to a Stable Diffusion model, right? Because it just doesn't make sense. But if you're sending them to equivalent types of LLMs, you can do it actually rapid fire, where you can say spit it out to this one, this one, this one, and then compare the answers. And some people, if you don't mind the extra cost, it makes it really easy to figure out which model has the best answer, to look for things that are hallucinations, and it's just it's so anyway. The nice thing
It's
with
like
that,
looking at itself. It sounds MCP-ish, a little bit
it,
there.
it kind of is in a way, but the strength of it for this is when new things come out, and the velocity of change in this is off the charts right now. The number of new things that come out, things that go away, changes that you have. This makes it very easy for them to launch new changes, because there's just a new LLM that you pick in the enumeration for the LLMs that you have to choose from in the API. So you just pick. Well, hey, look, I got the OpenAI OSS models are available now. Well, send it to them, see what it looks like, and you don't have to do anything to it other than tell it which model you want to submit it to. So you can pick these things up very rapidly in Bedrock. And one of the things that clients like to do, because it's also pretty cheap if you're not doing this in production, if you're just doing this in a development environment, it costs you a couple pennies to send 1 million tokens in.
Oh,
So you
wow!
can
Oh, wow!
yeah, so you can send these things in. Now really it's a couple dollars, but it's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
it's not hundreds of dollars,
Right.
and you can send even fairly large context windows uh, to multiple different models, and see what the results are and see which one works best for you.
So Bedrock is sort of an abstraction layer. I mean, it's like you know, back in the hardware days, right? Windows
Hmm.
itself has a hardware abstraction layer that sits,
Yeah,
above the hardware, and this is just an LLM abstraction layer. Yeah, the
yeah,
HAL. So
yeah.
we've got a
It's
LLM AL.
I
Yeah,
remember the
it's more of
how.
a factory pattern is kind of more of the way that I like. Yeah, it is kind of like how, right? It is like the hardware abstraction layer for that. But even a better analogy would be a factory layer. Would be a factory pattern.
Nice.
That makes sense. Oh,
Cool.
hey, how about it? We really got pretty deep into stuff. We found out that Michael's got so many credits. You know what's going to happen after this? All of a sudden, his inbox are going to be like, "So you have a lot of credits,"
Cool.
and then
Yeah,
all
well, don't.
the people that are looking for like their handouts are going to say, "Yeah, I borrow your credits."
Yeah, just don't put my email in the and
In the
on
show
YouTube for
notes.
this.
Oh no.
They'll
Yeah,
find you in LinkedIn. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
yeah, really.
They have, as they say, we have our ways. We have our
Yes.
ways. Okay, but otherwise, hey, thanks for another great show and for showing what's going on, as they say, on that side of the world a little bit, but also things that cross over. I think this is very important for this show when we're talking about in Cloud Talk. There's things that just simply cross over. It's
Oh
good to
yeah.
hear what's out there, because even if you're not using that particular cloud, very likely whatever cloud service you're using will have something that does that. And if you're not using it, and perhaps you should be, think about finding out more about it. Otherwise, if you're an
Absolutely.
AWS, try getting those credits.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Larry,
it.
right
Thanks,
now,
Michael.
he's ready to pick it up, and it's like, I'm gonna get those credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I'm deep in Cloudflare right now. I'm trying to get a tunnel to my local machine, so I'm in
Right.
Zero Trust, and so no, I don't have time for AWS credits at the moment.
Oh, at the moment, so you're
At the
working
moment.
on
Yeah.
on the deep tunnel. I think that's what
That's
they're
right.
working down in Texas as well. Is a deep tunnel. So good
Yeah,
luck with that.
I'm
Maybe you be as rich as that guy one day.
yeah, I'm actually right now. It's kind of interesting. I'm writing up a point of view and a fact paper, a white paper on how you can ensure that even if somebody's serving like a warrant, that they can't, just take a forensic copy of your data and get into it because of the way you manage keys and everything like that. It's super nerdy, but really cool.
Nice.
Oh, we'll if you give us a link to it, we'll post it in our account.
I will do that.
All right.
All right, very
Thanks.
good. Thanks so much,
All right.
everybody. Let's
Have a good one.
cancel out so we can return to our layers and tell the bosses we're actually working today.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, thank you. Take care, everyone.